Hey everybody, and welcome back to this week's edition of This Woman Can. And I'm really excited about this interview this week. I am talking with Teri McClanahan. I'll get my teeth around the words this week. And Teri is currently engaged as the Director of Foundation and Corporate Relations at Salvation Army. And it's her role to secure funding from foundations and corporations. Ms. McClanahan received her license to preach at the district conference June 2017, where with much prayer, strength and courage, she was ordained a local deacon in September 2022 at the 157th session of the California Conference, San Francisco. She's just completed, this woman doesn't lay still at all. She's just completed her third and final year of study at the Fuller Theological Seminary towards her Master of Arts in Theology. In February 2014, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. As a cancer survivor, she experienced firsthand the challenges surrounding treatment decisions and the emotional, physical, and economic demands placed on the individual and family as they travel the cancer journey. And learning firsthand that survivors were left to defend on their own, she started her own personal journey to be of service to that population of kindred souls. So she is currently a certified life coach and a certified cancer journey coach. In summer of 2020, Teri completed her manuscript that tells the story of her cancer journey, and it's definitely a book I want to read, and the 4 years of struggle that followed. The book is a moving testimony that bears witness to her journey and the courage and perseverance she gained to overcome the challenges through her deep and unabiding faith in God. So I know, Teri, that was a very abbreviated bio. So, but I want to say I am delighted. I want to do this for a while, as you know,
yes,
to have you on the program today. So I've given you a little bit of potted history on your bio, but can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because I know you didn't start out as an ordained deacon or pastor.
Oh,
So how can you tell me how you got to where you are today?
I started out as far from being a minister as I could possibly be, because I came out of college thinking I was going to take on corporate America. Not really, I came through college when women were just starting to get pushed and promoted into these higher positions. And so I think that there's a whole school of us that thought that they were going to take on the world and conquer the world.
Yeah.
And this whole notion of a glass ceiling just started to come into, reality for a lot of us. And it's a sieve, only a select few get through.
Yes.
And I attempted to get through, and I didn't. And so that put me on a path. And even though I was, maintained a career and was successful in my career, I could never break that ceiling,
right.
Which caused me a lot of emotional distress, and put me on the path to, as I look back on it, probably not some of the best behavior. I mean, it was just, let me just say that I was a wild kind of party girl. It's what I did to cope.
Yes.
And I remember being in my mid-30s and I always was in the church. Let me just put it like this. I never stopped going to church. There were periods where I didn't go, but I always maintained some connection with my church. I'm a lifelong member of the AME Church, African Methodist Episcopal, for those that don't know. And I remember one summer teaching Vacation Bible School. I love to teach Sunday school. And I was teaching the adult class. And one of the associate ministers approached me and asked if I had thought about going into the ministry. And I said, I kind of looked around, not knowing who she was talking to, because I'm thinking, I just got home 2:00 this morning from partying all night, and you talking to me about going into the ministry? Are you kidding? So that started a journey of running. I ran from it. I just couldn't fathom that God would use somebody like me. And so every time I came to that juncture in the road where I needed to make that decision, I made the opposite and ran.
Right.
So I've run up and down the state of California trying to get away from God. And what really, how he got my attention was the cancer. I mean, that was an opportunity for me to just sit down and do nothing.
Right.
And go into deep prayer and meditation and really think about where I was going with my life and what I was going to do with my life. That's the one thing about the cancer journey. You don't go in the front door of that journey. You don't come out the back door of that journey. If you're blessed to, the way you go in the front door. It just forever changes you. It gives you a different outlook on life.
Right.
And so I got through the journey. I got through the cancer journey, and said, "Thank you, God." And I guess I wasn't committed enough, because then I was diagnosed with a cyst on my pituitary gland, which resulted in me having brain surgery. So within 90 days of being released from cancer treatment, I had brain surgery.
Wow.
And got through that. And that's when I realized that, God was really trying to get my attention, and I need to pay attention. So I started the path toward ministry.
Right.
At that point. Yeah. And to be honest with you, my life has never been the same. Everything that I lost as a result of my cancer journey and the brain surgery, because when people get cancer, the world treats you differently. First of all, they treat you like you're going to die.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's all these, you're not going to really be able to function because chemotherapy changes you biologically, and it does. So in the midst of all of that cancer treatment and brain surgery, I got laid off. And I had just bought a condo.
Right.
So it was just, it's been an amazing journey, because all of the resources I had amassed toward my retirement, I had to spend to survive.
Right.
That was the first time that I realized that not only was I a Black woman, I was an old Black woman.
Right.
And people didn't want to hire old Black women. They wanted someone new and spry. So, it was just this whole journey for the past 7 years has been eye-opening. And it has, my decision to go into ministry opened doors for me. God opened doors for me that probably would have never been opened. Everything that I lost has been restored to me, and even more so. And so that's the short version.
Yeah. I know there's a lot more to it. So, but thank you so much for sharing. So Teri, let me ask you, what has been, I suppose, what have you learned most about the past 7 years in that aspect, or your career journey? What have you learned the most about yourself?
I've learned patience and perseverance. I'm very task oriented, and I'm very much a take charge kind of person. And prior to the past 7 years, whenever I was confronted with a situation, I just rush in like a bull in a china cabinet. Not really giving a lot of thought, to what I was doing or why I was taking the path that I took. And the one thing about having cancer is that it forces you to realize that you are in control of nothing.
Right.
I had non-Hodgkin's disease, which is a blood disease. It's not like I ate the wrong food and got some type of, or smoked cigarettes and got lung cancer. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that kind. It's like there was a genetic malfunction and boom, I have a blood cancer. And I had no control over it. And I realized at that point in my life, I really don't have control over any aspect of my life. And I better turn it over to somebody who does. I had to release it to a higher power. And so that forced me to really think about the way I navigated life, the way I made decisions, the way I did things and forced me to just think more about and to not make hasty decisions. Because one of the first things I asked myself is, do I need to make that decision today? No. So let's go on, because usually in the course of the day, something else will pop up. And it's like, okay, now I need to make the decision because I now have more information. Resources have come to me that I didn't know I had earlier. And so I don't rush out and make decisions like I used to. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that because I function that way, my anxiety level is down.
Right. Okay.
I'm sleeping at night, because I don't worry as much.
Fabulous. So you've had an extensive career, Teri. We know that you've had an extensive career. You've done lots of twists and turns throughout it. But what do you think has been unique about pivoting in midlife, mid-career?
Well, it's like I said, you have to really, for me, pivoting at this point, at this age, I have had to determine what's really important for me. Is it important that I be the vice president of the company, or is it important that I have a nice income that will sustain me through this part of my journey? Because I had to spend down my retirement funds, I'm going to have to work a lot longer than I had anticipated.
Right.
So, but I am older, so I don't need a high stress. So, I just really had to rethink what type of position I wanted. It also forced me to think about what kind of impact I can make at this time in my life. So for me, it's like I'm pretty much, I've already peaked out, and I'm kind of like coasting. And so the question is, who can I help along the way? Maybe there's somebody else I can help pull up and get them through that glass ceiling. Because I'm not looking to break that ceiling right now. But I know that I have enough experiences that maybe I can be of service to someone younger than myself. If they'll listen to the old Black woman.
No, they'll listen. Well,
I don't know. I've been looking at some interesting conversations on LinkedIn since the RBW passed, and it's interesting what young Black women are seeing and doing.
True, very true, very true. So, knowing what you know now, is there anything you wish you'd known as you embarked on this part of your transition, of your reinvention?
To be honest with you, I think when I look back over my life, I wish I hadn't been as much of a party girl as I was. I had a lot of fun, but at this stage in my life, I don't know that it served me well. And I think if there was one thing I could do over again, it's like, I think I would not have been as much of a party girl. I would have stayed home a couple of Fridays and Saturdays instead of being out and partying. I think I probably would have gotten my master's sooner rather than later. I just finished my second master's.
Right.
Having finished seminary, I wish I would have listened to that minister and gone into the ministry then, because I found out that I really love going to seminary. My first master's is in psychology. And even though I enjoyed psychology, I enjoyed theology more so. And I wish I had followed that course of action. My life would have taken a total different trajectory had I done that. I know that now. But the flip side of it is that because I was the party girl, I have a lot of rich life experiences I can share and help other young women along the way, you know, in terms of forcing them to think about the decisions that they're making and how they're approaching life.
Excellent.
You know?
Excellent, excellent. So, but what did you fear most, Teri, about changing, about making the changing careers?
I made a career change in my early 40s. I went from working in corporate America to nonprofit work.
Yeah.
And I've been in nonprofit work ever since. And I think the biggest fear, I mean, it was definitely clear that I didn't want to continue working in the corporate environment. Mm-hmm. I didn't know where I was going to go when I left corporate. You know, my options were to go to work for government, county or city government.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about nonprofit work.
Right.
And I looked upon a position, and it has turned out to be the best decision I could ever have made. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm trying to think back. I was able to take the skills and the knowledge I had about management and utilize that in the nonprofit arena. And what I learned was that the only really difference between for-profit and nonprofit is the word none.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I still am working in sales, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm selling my nonprofit to donors to get money out of them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. So a lot of the skills and experiences that I acquired in the corporate arena, it was easy for me to transition. I enjoyed the transition because now I feel like I'm working to promote the better good of humanity as opposed to making someone rich. You know, when you work in a corporate environment, it's all about, you know, making a profit, you know, increasing the bottom line, making the shareholders more money. Now my goal is to improve humankind, to help the least of us, to, you know, ensure people have a roof over their head and food and clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah, very noble.
So that's a better feeling for me.
Excellent. Yeah, I hear that. So Teri, you know, from the potted bio we had, we know there's been, you know, you've faced a number of challenges, successfully overcome them. But from I suppose from a career perspective, can you describe one of your biggest challenges, how you overcame it, and the lessons you learned?
One of the biggest challenges I faced was when I first got out of college and started working with Pacific Bell, and I will never forget my first day on the job. I was hired as an outside plant engineer. Pacific Bell had just gone through a lawsuit. A number of women in the corporation had filed a class action lawsuit against them because they weren't being promoted into management positions. And so Pacific Bell was on this, and I think Title 16 had just passed. So they were on this move to get more women hired in management positions. Outside plant engineering was a entry-level management position on the operations side of it. I'll never forget my first day on the job. My manager said to me, "Oh, you'll never succeed. Women can't succeed in this position." And I just looked at him like, you know, again, I started looking around like, who is he talking to? You didn't know me. You know, you don't know what my capabilities are.
Yeah.
So I looked him back in the face and said, "I'll be here when you retire." And I was. So what I found out was that women still have to work harder. Yeah. And especially Black women. Yeah. You know, I'm constantly being put in a position to justify why I'm in the room, even at this age. You know, I'm still dealing with comments like, "Oh, you're so intelligent." It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's frustrating having to prove myself.
Yeah.
It's frustrating having to work that hard. Even at this point, once I gain their support, it's which I usually do, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Following that, I think the next challenging situation I worked for a director that at the end of the day, I don't think he believed in women, period. He just,
right.
Because there were a number of women. He was a director over a fairly large nonprofit agency, and there were a number of women, white and Black, that he helped usher out of that. And for me, it got to the point where I would drive into the parking lot and literally put my hands on the steering wheel and bump my head against the steering wheel and start crying. That's how stressful the job is. And I think it reached a head when I wrote a report for him and I got it back. And he had taken a red marking pen and just marked all over it, threw it back at me, and told me not only did he want it to clean up, but he wanted me to produce this housing element report. By the time it was like on a Wednesday, and he was on his way out of town and would be back in town on Monday. And he expected to have that report on his desk by Monday morning. And I don't know if you're familiar with housing element reports, but the federal government requires cities and counties to produce this report that's about that big every 3 or 5 years. And so he wanted me to produce one for our agency.
Yeah, in no time.
So I did.
Wow.
I pulled up the reports from the city and the county. I pulled up assessments that we had done, and I did a compilation of all three.
Mm.
And when he walked in Monday morning, I put it on his desk. He was just totally blown away. He didn't think I would be able to do it. He just knew that was going to be. So he never got an opportunity to fire me, but I did leave.
Right. Yeah, you can see where it was going, and it's not the environment for you.
No, it was a very toxic environment. He was eventually run out. Looking back on it, there's a part of me that says I should have stayed, and because he was run out of there shortly thereafter.
Mm.
And my life would have had a totally different trajectory had I stayed.
Yeah. I hear that. Thank you for that. So, Teri, we always hear about the successes and all that kind of stuff, but the one thing I'm always fascinated with is how women overcome failure. Yeah. So my question for you is, how has failure made a positive difference in your life?
My failures have taught me perseverance. They have worked to ground me. I think that at some point, we all got in the world with this Pollyanna idea that life is going to be perfect and we're going to achieve everything we set out to achieve, and that's not always true.
Yeah.
And so what I have learned is to not be afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. That I'm dealing with a situation right now that some would consider a failure, but I'm like, no, I'm learning from this. Mm. I'm pivoting and I'm learning from this. So I can't let it get to me. I can't get depressed. I can't get, I can't let it stop my forward progress. That's what I've learned from failures. Failures, they're not a sign that, I can't take them personally. Yeah. Because it's not always a matter that you did something wrong. It's just that the circumstances didn't work out to your better good. Yeah. Don't take it personal. take what you can from the situation, learn from it, and apply it moving forward. And that's what I've learned to do over the years with failures in life. I've also learned, what not to do. I mean, because if you don't realize why you fail, you will continue to repeat that.
Yeah.
And so, there are certain areas of my life that I'm a lot more cautious with than I used to be.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing is that at this point in my life, I can say I've learned not to take it personal.
Right.
I've learned to understand that we all fall down and get up. And I think that my faith has helped me a lot with that, with understanding that God loves me no matter whether I succeed or fail.
Yeah.
I'm still a child of God, and I'm still loved, and I'm still walking His grace and mercy. So, it's, I think when people fail, the first thing they do is they want to internalize it. And, what did I do wrong? And, and it's not always about what you did wrong.
Yeah.
You can do everything right and it still fall apart.
Yeah.
And I don't, if you're going to be successful in life, not in your career, but just in life in general, I think you have to come to terms with not everything you set out to do will have a successful ending.
Yeah. Learn to roll with the punches, per se.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, you'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Trying to be perfect.
Absolutely. Perfection. Yeah. Perfection. Yeah. Let's not talk about perfection. The downfall of many a woman.
Especially with the society we live in, as we age as women, we are measured against someone who's 20, 30, 40 years our junior.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's just not feasible.
It's not feasible.
It's not feasible. And then you can't want to have that level of experience that you're asking for without having that age.
Exactly.
Exactly. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just it's one of the conundrums that us older women have to face, I'm afraid.
It is, and men don't face it. No, men mature.
Yeah.
But we get old.
Yes. Yeah. True. Very true. Very true.
And so I try to maintain. I was having a discussion with someone coming in this morning. And she says, "Oh, you look so nice." She was complimenting me, and I said, "Honey, I'm old. I'm not dead." So there's no reason for me to look.
Yeah.
I need to look alive.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
I'm not trying, I don't try to wear clothes that a 20-year-old would wear.
Yeah.
But I also want to, look like I'm alive.
Yeah. So true. I like that. I really like that. So Teri, what advice would you share with, other women over 50 who are embarking on their own career transition?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is don't be afraid to step out on the deep end. There were opportunities that I had that required me to step out on the deep end, and I didn't take them. And I look back and say, if I had done this, my trajectory could be different. Yeah. Or I would have achieved some other things. So, my first piece of advice would be don't be afraid to step out on the deep end.
Yeah.
And the second is don't take it personal if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Keep trying, and then I think it's good to have dreams and goals, but I've learned that you need to be flexible with your own dreams and goals.
Yes. Yeah.
I started out becoming a doctor. I'm nowhere close to being a doctor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like with any strategic plan, it needs to be a working, living document. You need to reassess it reevaluate it, tweak it, change it if necessary. You know, you may have set a path to go to the right and you realize that that's not where you really want to be, or that's not what you really want to do. Don't be afraid to change.
Yeah.
And go to another path. And I think we get kind of stuck in one rut. And, you know, and some people stick with their life dream and eventually get to it.
I always tell women it's okay to swerve.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to avoid that oncoming traffic. You know, you don't want to run headlong into it. It's okay to take a sidestep. You know,
exactly.
It's perfectly okay for that. But Teri, what do you think stopped you when you said that, you know, you stopped yourself from doing certain things?
You know what? There was a thought that came to my head too. I wish I had. No, I did have. I wish I had listened to my mentors.
Right.
The women that came before me that said, you know, you need to do this, this, and this. I was very headstrong. It's like, no, I'm going to do it my way. So I would say to younger women that are thinking about making that change, that if they don't have a mentor, they get one and they listen to them.
Yeah.
You know, get someone who's 15, 20 years older than you, who's walked that journey, that can tell you, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. You know, I'm amazed at what some of the younger women today deal with, you know, from something as simple as, you know, you may not want to go sit out in the sun 10 hours a day and to get that suntan. You might want to put a block on, you know, because when you get to be my age, you're going to look like a prune.
Yeah. And
they just look at me, just saying, you know, or you need to document everything that you do because you don't know. Don't erase you know, just little things that they need to be cognizant of along the way. You know, document, don't destroy things, create a path, always have a track record. And think before you react, I think is the biggest one.
Right.
You know,
right.
I didn't always do that.
Yeah. It's like you said, you just pause and stop to say, is it urgent? Do you need to do this right now? You know?
Do I need to respond to this right now? Do I need to jump out there and say what's on the tip of my tongue, or should I think about it? Because that has gotten me into more trouble than not. And maybe what I said was true.
Yes.
But it offended the person who was in a position to make a decision about my life.
Right. Yeah. Just read the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's you don't always have to respond.
Yeah. And
I guess what it boils down to is choose your battles.
Yes.
You know,
very much.
The question I ask myself a lot now is that, okay, do I want to win the battle or do I want to win the war?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. I hear that. So we're coming down to our last few questions, which is great. So I'm loving the conversation. I think specifically for I've asked my women of a certain age for this specific question. So for what is the joy, Teri, of being over 50? And what do you enjoy most about being over 50?
I can say no and not feel guilty.
I had the same conversation earlier.
Like, oh, no, I don't think I want to do that. Yeah. And I don't have to explain.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, no.
Yeah.
And that is all phases and areas of my life.
Yeah.
You know, I have no fear with telling someone no.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen today. And I'm amazed when I tell people no, that they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was afraid to say no. I was always trying to please and get along and you know, make sure that everybody was okay with me so I could advance in my career or do whatever it is. Now I say, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I even tell my partner, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So what do you think gives us that level of, I was going to say, I want to use the word bravado, because we do, you know, we kind of get like, nah, don't know how to do, but it's the same, it's just, I don't know, what do you think makes us more comfortable to be able to say no as we're older?
Well, for me, it was the realization that I was, I don't know, maybe you come to realization that this is as good as it gets, and I'm not going to deal with this anymore, and I don't have to, and what is it you're going to do to me?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. True.
What?
It's very true.
I don't know. I mean, I remember the first time I said no to my mother. Trust me, it was a scary event, because I didn't know if she was going to reach out and slap me, because I had a very strong mother. I said, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
She looked at me, she blinked her eyes, and she said, okay. Yeah. And we went on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's, I don't know what gives you the strength. I mean, just one day you wake up and someone asks you to do something that's really against what you feel.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because you come to the realization that this is it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You live longer than I got more years behind me than I do in front of me. And I'm going to be very careful about the things I say and do moving forward, because every moment is precious.
Yes. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Very true. And
when you come out of especially coming out of the pandemic, I mean, that really should have changed a lot of worlds and perspectives.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. So my last couple of questions, Teri. Where would we find you on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. typically?
Now that I have finished seminary, during seminary, you would find me sitting in front of my computer with a cup of coffee, either writing a paper, or I would have my tablet in front of me reading one of my books on Kindle. That's where you would typically find me. Now that I'm finished with seminary, I'll probably do something similar. I like to get up and walk in the morning. So it's like I start my day with a nice walk, come back in, have a cup of coffee, relax, roll into my day. And usually by about 10 o'clock, I'm ready to run errands and do whatever it is I need to do for the day. Yeah. But I'm a morning person. I like my mornings to be easy. So on Saturday mornings, I like my Saturday mornings to be easy, not full of stress. I'm not the kind of person that jumps out of bed. I kind of like roll out of bed, put the water on for coffee. Yeah. Yeah. So now that seminary school is finished, what next for you? I actually am going to rewrite my book. Okay. Because after I wrote it and published it and finished seminary, it was like, oh, I should have said this and this and this and this, and I should have added this. I don't think I went. I started with my cancer journey. Yeah. But I'm thinking I should have started before that, because there were some pivotal moments that led up to the cancer journey that really talk about how the book is Here and Back Again, how I found strength for the journey. And there are events in my life that are like cyclical, that I repeated because I didn't learn the lesson. Right. And so I found myself going, I'm here again. Why am I here again? Why am I having to clean up my credit again? Why didn't I learn the lesson last time? I can't tell you the number of times I cleaned up my credit. Gosh. Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to rewrite the book. There are people that want me to get. There are people that want me to get a doctorate degree. Okay. I haven't decided that that's what I want to do. Yes. Yeah. So I have told them no. Yeah. I don't know. What I am going to do is get my certification as a mental health first responder. That's through a religious organization, so that I can continue on my path offering pastoral care.
Right.
You know, I have all of these certifications, life coach, cancer coach, now get this mental health first responder certification. And so I really believe that there's a part of me that can develop a ministry behind that.
Yeah.
So I started developing a ministry before seminary,
right.
and you know, but seminary just is all encompassing. I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
So I need to go back to my Facebook page I set up. I need to go back to my website that I set up. You know, I need to re-energize my ministry.
Yeah. And that leads me very nicely onto that last question then. So if people want to know more about what you're doing or connect with you or read more, how can they do that, Teri?
Well, the easiest way to find me is on Facebook.
Okay.
Because that's really the only platform that I've kept current.
Okay.
And so they can just find, you know, my first and last name, just do a search on me on Facebook. If they Google me, they'll find me also. My book is on Amazon, Here and Back Again, How I Found Strength for the Journey by Teri McClanahan. They can find me there also. I hesitate to give out my website or my other Facebook page because they are woefully out of date.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
They're 3 years out of date.
Yeah,
seminary just took over my life.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm, you know, after I told you I'm in the process of moving into my condo.
Yeah.
After I get moved in and settled, I'm going to dust everything off, you know, take another look at my website, bring it up to speed, take a look at my Facebook page I'd set up for Finding Strength for the Journey, and roll out, re-energize my ministry.
Fantastic. That was my last question, Teri McClanahan. So thank you so much for being my guest today. I always love talking to you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.